What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Wildcard Weekend. We have two games for Saturday. We have the Chargers going down to Houston to take on the Texans, and then we have the AFC North for the third time this year, Steelers and Ravens. I have three picks for you here. I'm going to give you two anytime touchdown scores, and then I'm going to surprise you with the last one. So for the first pick here, we're going to go to the Chargers game and the Texans. We're going to go on the Texans side of the ball, and we're going to be looking at Nico Collins. Nico Collins, we're going to have him anytime touchdown scoring here. He has 3 touchdowns out of his last 5 games. He scored twice out of those last 5, which is really encouraging. What's interesting here is Houston just doesn't have a lot of reliable pass catching options right now. Stroud isn't hesitating to just throw the ball to whoever's open, and especially guys he trusts. And this is going to be Nico Collins. There's nobody he trusts more actually on this team. Ever since Tank Dell went down in Kansas City, there's nobody else he trusts. And he's also emerged as one of the league's best receivers. Nico Collins, he's 6'4", 220. So think about those big-bodied receivers, and think about how big-bodied receivers have done versus the Chargers. And for example, when we look at Jamar Chase and we look at other superstar receivers, do really well typically towards the Chargers. So I think this is going to be a matchup to watch. And something that I hesitate with the Texans is they've been kind of slumping lately, especially versus this game. Ravens and Texans. This is the kind of game that sticks out because week 18 versus the Titans doesn't really matter. If we go over here, we look at Houston receiving Nico Collins. He was the leading receiver with 59 yards. He had 6 targets, but then you look at Mechie, right? Like, oh wow, 8 targets, 5 catches. But if you look at Mechie's body of work, first of all, he's 6 foot, less than 200 pounds, so he's little. And if we just kind of look at these last handful of games, yeah, he had 8 receptions here, or 8 targets, 4 targets, 2, 3. And this is with Tank Dell here, but this is an anytime touchdown scoring video. And if we look at the touchdowns, he has 1 on the year, and I don't think he's going to find a touchdown anytime soon, especially not in this game. But if we look at Nico Collins, even coming back from injury, he still finished this regular season with 7 touchdowns. And I really think that he's going to find the end zone here. The Chargers defense is good, but they're not that good. They've only beat 2 teams with a winning record all year. They only beat the Bengals, and then they beat Denver twice. And that's pretty much it. They beat the Raiders twice. They lost to the Chiefs twice. So this is going to be interesting. I think the receptions here is a little high. 6.5. I think that's too much. The receiving yards, this could be fun. But for my first pick here, I really like Nico Collins to score. For my second play here, we're going to the Steelers and Baltimore Ravens game. The second play I have for you is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, a lot of people like him at almost 30,000 followers here. I really like him a lot. He was my fantasy tight end. He helped me get to the championship where I eventually lost. But look at this. This is encouraging to see, especially as a demon play. He's averaging a touchdown because he scored in his last 5 games. And if we look at the broader scope here, and if we look kind of more than 5 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he has 7 touchdowns out of his last 8 games, 8 out of his last 9, and he has 11 this year. Especially because he started the year not healthy, and especially he started the year not getting targeted at all. But then as the season went on, he got a little bit more love, and especially with Zay Flowers being out, this is going to lead me to believe that he's going to get a lot more love. Mark Andrews scored the last time they played Pittsburgh here. He went 4 for 6, caught a touchdown pass. Isaiah Likely's kind of a sneaky play too, but I like Mark Andrews if I'm going to pick between the 2 tight ends. Mark Andrews in the playoffs, there's this thing with Lamar Jackson. It's called Playoff Lamar. Hopefully, I don't think it's going to come out tomorrow. They're at home. They're a heavy favorite, and this year feels different. But surprisingly, Mark Andrews has never had a reception touchdown at all in his playoff career, dating back to 2018. Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, if we look at last year, he threw 2 touchdowns. One was to Nelson Aguilar, and the other one was to Isaiah Likely. And then in this game, it was to Rashad Bateman. Oh, Zay Flowers. I knew it was a receiver. I remember watching this game. All of a sudden, he's throwing the ball when he's running a lot last year. But Zay Flowers being out, if you like Rashad Bateman, it's a catchy option too. He has been doing really well, even with Zay Flowers on the field. If we look at Rashad Bateman here, he did score the last game he played, 4 out of his last 5. He's a demon. We go to Rashad Bateman, 6'1", 195. He's got 9 touchdowns on the year. He's scored 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games, 3 out of his last 5. He didn't play versus Philadelphia, but he did score also. The last time he played, he caught 1 3-yard pass for a touchdown. So these are 2 catchy options. These are 2 flashy options, but I ultimately think Lamar Jackson kind of shakes off this playoff foggy mindset that he has, and I think he's really going to win the MVP this year, and I think he's going to find his safety blanket in Mark Andrews, and that's what's going to leverage them in a closer game that I think people are going to give the Steelers credit for in a win. So Mark Andrews is going to be my second pick. For my third and final pick, it's not going to be an anytime touchdown scorer. It's going to be an anytime touchdown thrower. And we're going right back to the Houston Texans and Chargers game. We're going with Justin Herbert. I smelt value here at 1.5 passing touchdowns. A lot of people did too. Let me tell you why. If you look at Justin Herbert's last 5 games, he's averaging 2, and he's hit this number 4 out of his last 5. Justin Herbert, 6'6". I didn't realize he was that tall, but he did carve up the Raiders for almost 400 yards last week versus New England. He threw 3 touchdowns. He's getting hot at the right time. If we look earlier in the season, 1-2-1, kind of fluctuates here in the middle, but ever since the month of December hit, when they needed to win games, snuck into the playoffs here. Yeah, they may not have won everything, and they're not winning versus high quality opponents either, but they did beat Denver, who is one of their quality wins where he threw 2. They also beat Cincinnati. That was on a Sunday Night Football game where he threw 2. But this game's going to be a lot closer than people think. But 1.5 passing touchdowns is something feasible, especially when you have Ladd McConkey, and he's been killing it. I almost wanted to put Ladd in there too for the anytime touchdown score, but I think people are going to focus on him a lot. I think they're going to double cover. They're going to scheme right against this. Then you have Quentin Johnston, who's drop prone, but there's a lot of weapons to go around. Will Disley, which I really like. I don't like this person to score, so if you put him in there, this is somebody I would avoid. J.K. Dobbins. He's back from injury. He looked really good versus the Raiders. He hit his incentive at the end of the year, but he's been nursing an injury. He's not back 100%. He was questionable on Wednesday at practice. I think they're going to throw it a lot more than they're going to run it. The Houston Texans defense is respectable, so they may have lost versus Baltimore, but they're not a pushover. So I think this, especially with the home field advantage, the Texans are going to give the Chargers a run for their money. But these are my 3 picks, everyone. Nico Collins, Mark Andrews, and Justin Herbert to throw 2 touchdowns. And I have more bonus picks and plays below, so just go ahead and check the link in the description if you want to see more of my content. I want to say thanks for watching, everybody, and good luck.